What's up, college football fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show, and today I'm joined by Matt from Go Tech Please Don't Die podcast, and we're going to talk about Louisiana Tech and the state of Conference USA and just get a feel for really what's going on. But guys, before we get into all that, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football recruiting, G5 football, transfer portal, and for now, conference realignment, any or all of the above, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. Matt, thanks for jumping on with me. I know you're in a disarray right now, but where can everybody find you at and the work that you guys do for Louisiana Tech?
You can find me. I am on Twitter. I've been a lot more active on there for this season than I have in past seasons just because things have been going so painfully badly. But you can find me at Denizen Matt. That's DENIZEN Matt. If you want to read some depressing tweets about how miserably the season is going, and it is going very, very miserably. I want to make sure I get the GTPDD Twitter correct, and you can find us there at Nathan is so good at this on the podcast. We used to make fun of him for not being able to get it out all in one sentence, but it's GOTECHPLSDNTDIE. And that is at GoTech Please Don't Die, where we're also equally depressed.
Man, you guys just run that up. GTPDD so fast. It sounds like an STD. It's so fast. And
sometimes it's as infectious as one like this season is going. It's I mean, I love my school. I'm proud to be a La Tech alum, but I'm not really that proud with the way things are going right now. And you can hear it in my voice. I'm even more unhappy with CUSA leadership right now.
When you say leadership, are you talking about at Louisiana Tech specifically, or are we talking about Judy?
I mean, she's got a bullseye on her back right now, man. Like Judy has handled this so poorly. I mean, it's kind of like James Buchanan when he let all the Southern states leave the Union, and then just gave it to Abraham Lincoln and was like, "Here, figure it out."
Yeah.
I don't know how much longer CUSA is going to stay afloat. I mean, we're talking about a conference that could be non-existent in a week's time. All the teams could leave. I don't know how exit fee stuff works. I've been seeing a lot of stuff about that on Twitter, and I don't really know the ins and outs of that. I do know that you have to have 6 teams in the conference to get an automatic bowl bid or something along those lines. So now but how awful would a 16 CUSA be? Like a 3-division East, 3-division West? I mean, it sucks, man. And Tech has a new AD, Dr. Eric Wood, who took over for McClellan, and McClellan's the guy that dissed the Sun Belt, which is why a lot of people think that we didn't get invited, but it seems a little petulant, almost childish that they would hold a grudge like that and not invite us, because fiscally and geographically, it makes perfect sense to invite Tech. But I don't know. Maybe they do hate us that badly.
Yeah, maybe it's ULM trying to keep you guys out. Who knows? I mean,
well, if there's more than, I mean, ULM's 30 minutes away from Tech, and it's an excellent chance for rivalry. There used to be a great rivalry there and with ULL, but I mean, I don't know why. I know why we're being blackballed, but I don't know. I don't think it's fair because these are adults. These aren't like I'm trying to.
They're adults. We hope they're adults.
Well, you would just think adults. Old people in suits that aren't going to be like, well, this Twitter account said this about this team, and McClellan said this, and I don't even know if it was a private Zoom call about this team or whatever. It's so stupid. Like, if La Tech joined SBC, they'd get creamed by a lot of teams. ULL's having a big come up in SBC. So I don't even think that Tech would be a great team in the Sun Belt. So I don't know. It's just real dark. It feels like we're about to enter a really, really, really dark period for Tech athletics. And it sucks the worst for the student athletes. That's who I feel the worst for, because they're not the ones that are running off at the mouth. It's these old white men that are just out of control. And I've done my fair share of trash talking to schools in the Sun Belt, mostly ULL. But I'd gladly take an invite from them right now if they threw it. I mean, if it was up to me, we would be in the Sun Belt. But I don't think that that's the way this is going to pan out, but we can get to that a little bit later.
Have you seen Squid Game yet?
No, I've seen memes about it, and I saw like an old man that constantly gets memed on Squid Games, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, well, this is kind of should watch it. I feel like CUSA is going through a Squid Game elimination with their teams and stuff. So, whenever the WAC dissolved, were you guys a part of the WAC whenever it went up in smoke? And you guys quickly went to the CUSA like the following year?
Yeah, like right out of the gate. Tech was in CUS. Pardon me. Tech was in the WAC my junior year at Tech, and that's the year they went 9-3 and didn't go to a bowl game, and had the #1 rated offense in the country. That was like their year, and they still lost to every team on their schedule that they were supposed to lose to. We lost to Texas A&M, who that was Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I remember that.
That
was a close game, as all y'all games are.
It was. I think at one point Tech was down 27 or 31-0 in that game, and they came back and lost 59-57. So it was a super close game. I've only walked out of two Tech games. One I didn't come back for, but the other I ran back into the stadium. The first game I ever walked out of was that Texas A&M game when there was like 3 or 4 minutes left and we were down by 17 or something like that. I walked out of the stadium, and then someone was tailgating and watching it, and I saw that we got an onside kick, so I ran all the way back to the stadium. This was an independent stadium in my hometown in Shreveport, Louisiana. I ran all the way back to the stadium, and they didn't even stop me, nothing. I just ran straight back in, went right back up to my seats, and we still lost. So that sucked. But the second game I walked out of, you guys will love this. You're going to love this. The second game I walked out of, and the only game I walked out of and never came back for, was 2013, my senior year at Tech, against UNT. I walked out of that game and I did not go back. And that was after Higgins, Ryan Higgins, who later broke several records his senior year. He threw a pick. I said, I bet a pick six is coming here. And he threw a pick six, and I left the stadium. Went to Wendy's and had very disappointing food.
The glory days of North Texas.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. You used to make people walk out of stadiums.
Yeah, well, now the only people walking out, everyone's walking out of the stadiums.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, everyone's walking out of the stadiums. Between your team and my team, we're looking at 3 wins on the season. My God.
Yeah, 2 of them belonging to you.
Yes.
So whatever, and one of them is against us. So who's really the biggest loser here?
Bottom of the barrel right now for both of our programs, and I don't really think it's fair to say which one's worse off, because UNT on their way up to the AAC, and I hope that gets better. I'm not saying that the guys on the team are bad, but I'm hoping that this leads to maybe you guys getting some higher ranked recruits. That's part of the fun when you lose your mic.
Yep.
That's the wrong one. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I hope this leads to better recruits for UNT. Not saying that the guys on the team are scrubs. I think your coaching is awful. But hopefully this leads to better opportunity for UNT, because we talked about this when you guessed it on GTPDD. There's no excuse for North Texas not to be one of the best damn G5 schools in the country.
Oh, you said it, Matt.
There's no reason. And really, there's no reason for La Tech to be as bad as they are, because Louisiana and Texas are 2 of the best states for high school football. Texas is easily the best, but Louisiana is not far behind. When you see all these guys in the NFL, a lot of them come from the state of Louisiana and the state of Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a lot of that is concentrated around DFW. A lot of that, there's a lot of it still in Central and South Texas too, but there's no reason for UNT to be this bad. But they got you guys because you're in the AAC. This is kind of a bone that I have to pick, is it's about the market, not the merit. But UAB's got 2 CUSA titles ever since they came back. So I think that they were well-deserved to bump up. UNT, I'm not going to bash your school or anything, but you guys haven't been very good very recently. But you're in the Dallas market, so there you have it.
Yeah.
So La Tech's just left out to dry.
Yeah, this might be the first time that North Texas kind of feels like trust fund kids. That's something that our alumni don't really get pegged as. But
I don't know what the alumni situation is at UNT. I don't know if like donations are super good. I don't really know if I don't know if LTAC is getting a ton of funding either. But the Davis, I don't know what you guys' facilities are like. I've never been to Denton and seen a game.
They're good. They're good.
Well, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
And La Tex is excellent now because the Davison family donated $20+ million to that giant end zone complex that you may see whenever we play each other. So stuff like that, we were super jacked up, like, oh, that's going to be what it takes to get to that next level. And really good recruits have kind of poured in. And when realignment talk came around, I was like, this is it. This is going to be it. This is going to be the bump that we're going to need to become like the next Boise State or Cincinnati or whatever. And
Yeah, I feel like all of us G5 schools, North Texas included, I've said it. I feel like we all measure ourselves to like the Boise State of old,
yeah,
and for a good reason. I mean, they definitely became a
and,
national brand.
and they came out of the WAC. They were playing
They
Tech.
came out of the. Oh, I know all about them. But
Mhm.
oh yeah,
Because that's like
oh
the
yeah.
blueprint every G5 should have. Is like, well, Boise State did it, and I try telling people like that, like people that I know, not necessarily in our group GTPD, but other people, other alumni. Like, this is the trajectory this team should be on. They should be on a Boise State type, at least at least aspiring to be in that type of trajectory. But it has never happened. And I started like 6 bowl wins in a row and 7 bowl appearances in 8 years is tremendous. And I thought all that would be taken into consideration with the AAC, and just they were like, Ruston, what's that?
There's an airport though in Ruston, isn't there?
There's a what?
There's an airport in Ruston, isn't there?
I mean, it might be the size of a stick of gum.
Yeah, I flew into whenever, because I went to a game there and we flew in, and I thought we flew into. It was a very small airport, but an airport nonetheless.
I doubt it. You probably flew into Monroe Regional.
How far? Oh, is that like 30 minutes from La Tech?
It is 30 minutes from La Tech.
That still was very small, though. Is it a very small?
Oh yeah, that airport. That's why I'm saying like Ruston Municipal looks like a flight simulator airport. Like, it's this big.
Yeah.
I mean, Julia, my wife over there, depressed that I have to be so depressed about sports all the time. She flew into Monroe Regional whenever, because we live in Kansas City now, but she was flying down, and that is a small airport. It's a nice airport. That's where Tech flies out to go to away games whenever the band gets to go, and I'm pretty sure that's where the team flies out of. I don't think they fly out of Ruston Municipal, but we have great facilities. I thought that we were on the up and up. I just keep circling back to this because it hurts so badly that teams like UNT, no offense, are on their way up, and we just have to stay back and fight just to maybe even stay in FBS.
Don't say that, Matt.
That is like the worst case scenario. That is the worst case scenario. And I'm one of those people that is always worst case scenario. And
don't do that to you. Don't say that. Don't do that to you and the La Tech fans. Be the voice. Is that the worst case scenario? Is FCS?
Yeah.
Oh,
and that's gosh. And it does no good to put any stock in what you read on Twitter or Reddit, unless it's like a news correspondent or something like that. But like the other people who really don't have any business reporting or anything like that will say stuff like, "Oh, FCS is not far off," or like there's rumors that Tech is going to have to move down to the Southland Conference, which then I think back in the early 90s, or maybe not the early 90s, maybe back in the 80s, and all that jazz, with the likes of Southeastern Louisiana, who I think is a terrific football team. Tech played them earlier this season. I was at that game in Ruston, my first game in 3 or 4 years, and we won by 3. And the only reason we won is because we forced a fumble on their last drive when their 6'8" quarterback fumbled the ball. So I quote tweeted, I think you saw earlier today, I would not mind having Southeastern come up to CUSA, because at this point it's survival mode.
Yep.
I mean, the way this was handled is like a fire in a chocolate fireplace. Like, it's falling apart so fast and it's getting so ugly that I'm not really desperate for teams to come, but I really am, because I don't want CUSA to fail, because Tech has nowhere else to go unless they go independent, and that would be a financial disaster, because then no games will be on TV. It does nothing to help recruiting, because then all the guys that maybe have verbally committed, some of which are very good, see that and probably think, well, I'm not going to go there. They might even the absolute worst thing would be to see La Tech recruits go to other in-state schools like ULL or ULM, or sorry, ULM, I don't want to get caught on camera, and then this will be my fault when we get relegated all the way to like Division III in NAIA.
You guys would dominate NAIA.
Doubtful. It just doesn't. It's just been such a bad season, and I know that you're just kind of letting me rant here, and I'll just keep going. Skip's first year, he went 4-8. That was my senior year, and I went to all those. I went to every home game, and except the USM game because I was working that night. But I went to one away game. I came up to see my wife. We were dating at the time. I took a freaking Greyhound bus from Shreveport, Louisiana, to Kansas City, Missouri, to see my girlfriend at the time, and we drove over to Lawrence, which is like 40 minutes.
You came in riding on like a knight in shining armor.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And I can't think of a good reference for like a bulldog on a dying horse instead of a knight in shining armor. So anyway, we went over to Lawrence, and Kansas is an awful football team and has been for a very long time. Tech lost that game on like a 55-yard walk-off field goal. It's the worst. I feel like, so then I moved up here, and I didn't go to a Tech game for years and years and years. And then I went to go see them play Arkansas in Fayetteville. They lost that game by 1 point. That's a trope if you don't know. Tech losing football games. They lost to Mississippi State this season by 1 point. They lost to SMU on a walk-off Hail Mary by 2 points.
Yep.
It's just been a really, really, really ugly year. Lost to NC State at the very end. Had a chance there at the end and lost that game. But it's just been like going down, down, down. But like Skip's first year, 4-8. After that, 6 straight bowl victories.
Yeah.
Two Conference USA title game appearances in which they lost both. But there's a strong sect of the La Tech fan base that wants Skip out. Especially
what do you want?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good call out right there, Sonoy, because there have been times where my knee-jerk reaction was, I want Skip out. I don't ever want to see him again. And then I'm like, well, that's not fair because he has done so much good for the program. He's seen it through a huge transition period into CUSA where he won 2 Conference USA championships with East Carolina like 10 or 12 years ago, a long time ago. So he's got experience in the conference. So I thought, okay, it's not fair just to cast him out because maybe we go 6-6 one year, or maybe in this case, I don't even know if we're going to win another game. But if Tech doesn't win another game and ends 2-10, I don't know if it's fair to cast him out after one season. And I think a lot of other people feel that way too, mostly in the group. But then there's a whole lot of other people, namely people that actually write the checks that help LTAC and help the Alumni Association, which is LTAC. But they want Skip out. There's a message board that you may not be familiar with called Louisiana Tech Bulldog Barks and Bites. Have you heard of this disaster?
I don't think so. It sounds very familiar to what we have in gomeangreen.com.
It's probably very similar. It's called LaTeX. It's latechbbb.com, I do believe.
Does it have like a bulldog for like its Twitter face or whatever? Twitter picture?
I don't think they have a Twitter. They're too
old. They
old.
don't. Okay.
So LaTeX BBB is a bunch of old, angry white men who sit at their computers and just dog Tech, no pun intended, for every little thing that goes wrong. There is a post right now. Let me just very quickly bring this up here because this was my favorite post from last night because the game thread is a disaster. It's like reading an Ayn Rand novel. It's awful. So then you've got a thread on here called "It's now the time to move forward," and there's another one on here. I forget the name of it, but they want to fire the athletic director who just got the job. They want to fire Skip and banish him from the state of Louisiana, and they want to fire, this is the worst one. They want to fire the university president, Dr. Les Geis, because they think that Dr. Geis and Skip
they're on
Holtz,
a killing spree.
But it's like this every year. There's always like several threads like fire Skip Holtz. There was like a hashtag fire Skip Holtz. There's a hysterical meme on here that someone started where it's like a train on fire with Skip Holtz's face where the horn is. And it's like choo choo. And it's just, there's a lot of people that hate Skip and have wanted him out for years. But now that support for removing him is getting more of a voice. And it's the worst possible time to get rid of your coach, because if Skip is canned at the end of the year, who's going to walk? Because he signed an extension in the middle of the pandemic for 5 more years. So he's on the hook. Tech would have to buy him out, pay him to go home and play golf for 4 seasons if they cut ties with him this season at the end of the year. So there's that problem too. And we can't afford to pay 2 head coaches. We can't even really afford to pay Skip, I imagine. So you can't dole out money to Skip to sit at home in Florida, and you can't really offer a big money contract to an established head coach to come in, especially if we go independent. You're really not going to be able to afford it. There's some fear that we won't be able to afford Skip's contract if we go independent. So, but that's like far reaching. I don't want to jump to any conclusions there, but yes, your question, do I want Skip out? No, I don't. But if we go 2-10, ask me then.
Okay, maybe you guys would maybe we'll just trade coaches. You guys will get Coach Luttrell.
I want no part of that. I want no part of that. I don't remember who the coach was at UNT before him.
Dan McCarney.
Yeah, but this guy Luttrell, I don't know anything about him. I don't know where he came from. I don't know if he was he a coach?
Yeah, he was offensive coordinator at North Carolina before he came over to UNT to be the head coach.
He was the UNC offensive coordinator. Is that what you said?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, this has not worked out well for him.
I'm telling you. Yeah, he was there whenever Trubisky, I believe, was a QB.
Okay.
And as a player, though, he did win a national championship with OU as a fullback, and he was I think he was one of the captains, actually.
I did not. Well, obviously, I didn't know any of that because he's not my coach. And then you look at Skip and you look at his playing background. Wide receiver at Notre Dame who never caught a ball, had 1 rush for 1 yard. Terrific.
Yeah.
But the funny thing about Skip, though, is I alluded to us having to pay him if he gets canned. That wouldn't be the first time that's happened with him. He was canned at USF, where he also made far-reaching promises to beat Florida and make them a powerhouse, and had a horrible time there, got fired, and was getting paid by USF and La Tech at the same time. And so he's no stranger to getting paid by 2 schools simultaneously. He's also
a businessman.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's why he got into the business, because he knew he could hustle everybody. But he is also no stranger to transition, because he was the coach, I think, at UConn whenever they bumped from FCS to FBS. So now it's like a reverse. It's like Benjamin Button. It's like he's going to move Tech to FBS to complete the circle. And then he's just going to get in the hell like the Hendon Peter and just leave and never be seen again. I don't think we're going to move down to FCS truly. If that happens, though, you can guarantee that
some national championships.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And this is kind of a good transition into some of the teams that are being rumored to join CUSA. Tech could barely compete against Southeastern. And Southeastern, I think I looked earlier, are 6-1 or 5-1 on the season. They're having a really good season. I don't think they've won any FCS national championships. I think they've gotten pretty far in the playoffs. But I would love to have them bump up, because that's a great in-state rival to have. And it would be good for us recruiting-wise to go down to it's in Hammond, Louisiana, which is kind of a ways out of the way of New Orleans. But it'd be good to go to South Louisiana and pick up some good recruits and get them to see us play football. That would be awesome. Then there's Sam Houston State that are being rumored to join. And this is how painful it must be to think to ourselves, La Tech fans and other CUSA teams out there with fans, to think, what if Sam Houston State and any other school like Tarleton and Fort Worth, what if they say no? Then what do you do? Because then it's over.
Yes.
Because they only need 1 team to join, but I don't know of any other 6-team conferences. I don't know if any exist. I don't even know if any 8-team conferences exist. So I've gotten over this in my head a million times, and I don't think Conference USA in the next couple of weeks is going to exist. When is UNT leaving? When are the teams that were plucked up to go to AAC.
We're leaving next week.
What's that?
We're
Oh,
done.
you're leaving next week? Yeah.
we're already we put our 2 weeks notice in. We're out.
When is UNT and all the other teams officially
I
start?
believe everything is looking like 2023. So I guess the 22 season would be the last one in the last dance.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know the logistics about like as far as like the buyout, if there will be a buyout. If Conference USA implodes, though, do we have to buy out if the conference doesn't even exist?
Yeah,
I don't know.
All sorts of talk about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But so there's definitely going to at least be, obviously, the rest of this season and the next. It'll be same old, which means La Tech's got one last chance.
Yeah.
Win CUSA when it's normal. It's not going to happen. But not if, when, because all you guys are leaving. If best case, it's pathetic that this is best case, but if best case, these FCS schools bump up, I think there's a transitionary period where they cannot officially play in FBS, I think, for 2 or 3 seasons. I don't know the official rules on that.
So you're saying if Tarleton, what you're saying hypothetically, possibly, is if Tarleton, Sam Houston State, Southeastern, if they come up to Conference USA, they can't play FBS schools for?
I don't know for sure, and I don't want to speak out of turn, although I think I have several times already. But I don't know officially how that works, but I think that there's some bylaw that says that you can't just automatically jump to FBS instantaneously like that. It seems odd, but I read there's some bylaw out there that would make things very difficult to just be like, okay, here they are. I mean, it's easy to bring on a team like New Mexico State, who is FBS independent. They can just come right in, and that would set up a great rivalry, which I think there used to be a great rivalry between UTEP and New Mexico State that are like this far apart from each other over there in West Texas, New Mexico. So that would be the easy one, but I think there's some tricky language that would make it to where Tarleton, Sam Houston, Southeastern, and any other FCS school that wants to join, although I don't necessarily advise you to do that if you want your program to keep your fans, where they couldn't just start playing instantly. And if they did, everyone's joking like, oh, La Tech would run the table. They'd destroy those teams, would they?
It'd be close games, but maybe.
I don't know, man, because they struggled against Southeastern, who are a terrific football team. That was a shootout game. So I don't know if they could beat Sam Houston. Sam Houston's 6-0 and just destroying teams. Tarleton, I gave a little shout out to them earlier today on Twitter. They had record attendance at their game last night. They won by 3 against like the Bishop Sycamore.
Yeah.
But they won.
Yeah.
So everyone's winning but Tech. Everybody, well, in UNT.
Yeah.
UNT
Let's not get carried away there with everybody.
Yeah. It's just
that could be a hell of a sales pitch from Judy. I mean, hey, Tarleton and Sam Houston State, why don't you come join our conference? And you can't play anybody for 2 or 3 years potentially.
Yeah, I don't know like I've said it a million times already. I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know if there is like a probationary period or if there's a transitionary period. I don't know how any of that works. The worst case thing I saw, and one that is gaining a lot of steam in La Tech circles, is go FBS independent in football and have basketball, baseball, everything else go Southland, which is FCS, which is awful because La Tech basketball is like one of the only things, and baseball is like two of the only things we have to look forward to right now. And bumping down to FCS would be devastating for us recruiting. I think bumping down to FBS, if you want to call it a bump down, bumping over or down to FBS independent would be devastating for a program. That's what I'm starting to become more fearful of, is regardless how this works out, unless the SEC calls and it's like, hey, you guys want to replace LSU? Then, yeah, we're not going to – this is going to hurt recruiting. And that's when you start talking about the long-term effects, the long-term problems that could see this program go from what we had originally thought was a pretty consistent, decent program. We're not ever going to be ranked probably. I think we knocked on the door a few years ago, got some coach votes, but we're not going to we're not going to be like UTSA and go 8-0 and get ranked, even though UTSA has played nobody whatsoever and they're full of crap. But they haven't. I mean, they played Tech. Tech sucks. The closest game I think they had all year was WKU, who they are not very good either. They have played no decent out of conference teams. I don't want to hear any crap about Memphis. They haven't played like an SEC school. They haven't played like a Big 12 school. They haven't even played an AAC school. They've played nobody. So when they do, and I think they are probably going to go undefeated unless they lose to UTEP
or UNT.
If UNT beats UTSA, that'd be wonderful. That's like a season saving. It's like a season-saving grace for you guys. That's like,
it would be.
Like, hey, we only won 2 games, 3 games, but one of them was against a ranked. Is that game in Denton?
It is. It is.
That's perfect. All 5 of you could storm the field.
We would.
Yeah, all 5 fans, because that's what it's looking like for Tech right now. One of my buddies, I won't mention him by name, in our group chat that we like keep tabs in during games and to discuss other stuff. He said that because last night was homecoming, because of course it was. After halftime, and they did the homecoming court, half the student section, if not more, left. But that's been a problem forever. I don't know if that's a problem with you guys, where at half all the sorority people, all the fraternity kids, they just leave. But that's been the case at Tech for years.
Well, it's a problem whenever our record is like this, for sure. If we're doing well, they'll stay until the bitter end or the victorious end. But right now, yeah, it's
just dismal.
It's peace out.
And who wants to sit around and watch your school get destroyed when you can go home or back to the frat house and underage drink and party? Whatever.
Right.
That's a lot more fun than watching your team get destroyed. And a lot of them are just kind of like passerby fans anyway, because it's free to go to La Tech games for students. I don't know.
Same.
Yeah. Where like other schools like LSU, you have to pay even if you're a student. But
I think La Tech and North Texas are debating paying people to come.
Yeah. Well, do you guys speaking along those lines? Do UNT have? Does the school charge an athletics fee to students?
That's a great question. I don't think so.
La Tech is not, and there's a big push by a lot of alumni to bring one back, or just to get one for the first time ever. But then a lot of people, mostly younger people, feel like that would be misguided, and it would be better to put money back into the school itself, because there was a goal originally to get a certain level of enrollment at Tech, to get a certain level of people enrolled in certain programs, and I don't think any of that has come to fruition. And I don't want to totally blame the pandemic, but there seems to be this belief that if your athletics are really good, more kids want to go to your school. And I don't know if I buy into that. But what I do buy into is you guys and everyone else who joined AAC now have a great opportunity to get more butts in seats, because what better way to get people to come to the games than to bring better quality opponents, to say that you're playing at a higher level. Even though you guys in that P6 talk is giving me a headache, because there is no P6, but
not without La Tech, there's not.
Yeah, right. It'd be like a G7 if we joined. So that is a good ticket to get more people to come to the stadium and watch games, because now anyone who might have been mildly interested in coming to a game, whether they be a student or someone in Ruston, which Ruston's not a very big town, but still, they're going to say, well, Tech's like FBS independent. They're FCS, God forbid. So no one's going to come to the games. And so it's like a long-term domino effect of recruiting goes down the toilet, attendance goes down the toilet, fan support, the money, everything, the alumni network, everything just starts going way, way down. And that's something that didn't really cross our minds, me and everyone in the group, until last night when I brought it up. Maybe it crossed minds, but we didn't bring it up and talk about it. But last night, the chat was so sad from the game. And I don't know if you listen to our podcast, but I predicted that Tech was going to lose 52-10. And I was in the minority, because Taco Joe he predicted they were going to win, but he didn't think that we were going to get slaughtered.
Taco Joe, he's a UTSA guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the UTSA fella.
Yeah.
That's on Twitter. Terribly nice guy. But Nathan he said we were going to win. Evan said we were going to lose. I said we were going to get curb stomped, and that's exactly what happened. Tech got curb stomped. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and I feel especially bad for our quarterback, Austin Kendall, that kid that transferred in, because he had a really good job in Dallas selling pharmaceuticals, and Skip called him up because I guess he's a friggin' masochist and was like, hey, come to Tech because we got a shot with you to be a really good football team. And instead, he got sacked, I think, 6 times last night.
He might need some of those pharmaceuticals.
He's going to need a lot more than that.
Yeah.
I just feel sorry for him, and he's going to see out the season. But if I'm him,
is this his last year of eligibility?
He's like a 15th year senior. The guy's like almost as old as I am. I think he's 24 years old, but he went to OU and got beat out by Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm. They went to West Virginia.
Dallas product, by the way. He went to Allen High School.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I'm very familiar with Austin Kendall. Yeah.
No, not Austin Kendall. Kyler Murray.
Oh yeah. Well,
Kyler Murray went to Allen High School, which is where the best man at my wedding and my best friend went to high school.
Oh.
And then Matt trivia. And then Kendall he left there, goes to West Virginia, does not very well, but everyone was like, oh, he was injured, blah, blah, blah. Then he just, I guess, throws in the towel and goes to sell pharmaceuticals, and then Skip calls him up and was like, hey, come get your PhD at Tech while you're playing for the Bulldogs. And it's just been a disaster. He has not played as well as people advertised he may play. He hasn't been horrible, but he hasn't been very good. And a lot of that isn't necessarily his fault. It's coaching, but it's also the offensive line, which might as well have the center. There's a center for the blind in Ruston. Might as well put those kids out there because the offensive line is horrible. Swiss cheese, microwaved Swiss cheese, just falling apart. It's just so bad. And to start the season, only allowing 1 or 2 sacks against Mississippi State and against Southeastern, and then against North Carolina State. I don't think we have very many sacks either. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But to let up 6 against UT, I think it was 6 last night. It was just so bad. And UTEP is making us look silly. So it sucks. And to drag it all the way back to something I said earlier, the first season, Skip goes 4-8. No one expected Tech to be great because we lost like 20 or 28, 30 seniors off that record-breaking offense. A lot of coaches left, obviously, because Sonny Dykes went out the door. So no one was expecting Tech to be very good. And they almost had a shot. If they beat Kansas and they win one more game, they go to a bowl this first year. But then you rattle off 6 straight bowl wins and 7 straight bowl appearances, and then you have a dud year like this. It's hard for me to be like, oh, we need to can Skip Holtz. And I don't know if that would necessarily fix the problem because there's an old adage, players play, coaches coach. But I think it's a little bit of a mix of the players aren't very good and the coaches are worse. So there's not a whole lot to look forward to. Matter of fact, I'm dreading our the rest of the schedule. We have ODU next. And they haven't won it. I think someone said on the message boards they haven't won an FBS game in like 3 years.
Oh gosh, the pressure's on.
Sadly, and not for them. They're going to go into this game with a chip on their shoulder because they're about to go to the Sun Belt for greener pastures. So they're just going to be like, you know what? Let's just go out there and try our best, and it'll probably be enough to beat Tech. And I don't think we have a good enough fan base to keep up with that. The people that would know that ODU is so bad, but I know, and a lot of other people know. So people are always saying, "Oh, it can't get any worse." No, trust me, it can get a whole lot worse. Losing to ODU would basically be losing to ODU and Southern Miss would be as bad as it gets.
Well, okay, so what is Judy's official job title? Do you know?
She's the commissioner of CUSA.
Okay, so she's a conference commissioner. Okay.
Yeah, there's someone right above her, I believe, like the president on like the board of trustees.
Okay.
But I think day-to-day athletic decisions rest with Judy.
Okay, so let's play a hypothetical game really quick. Let's say Judy gets and accepts the promotion to go be the commissioner of the SEC, and they promote Matt to be the commissioner of the Conference USA, these United States of America. What are you doing? Who are you calling? What are you trying to sell? Walk us through your first 90 hours in office.
It's let's say 96.
Okay.
So, because that's 4 days, I feel like that's reasonable. So it's survival mode. That's been my attitude, and I'm trying to get on board with this idea of don't be too proud. And I don't think they are. I don't think Judy or anyone on the board of trustees is too proud to ask FCS schools to come up. But that's what I would do. My first instinct would be, okay, Sam Houston State, who won the national championship, the FCS national championship last year, let's get them. Let's go after Southeastern. That's an in-state rival, and that fits into that philosophy of regional, keeping it like a regional conference. It's perfect. So Sam Houston, I'm going after Southeastern. I'm going after. I don't know how I feel about Tarleton, because I don't think they're a stalwart in FCS. I don't think that they've been very good. I don't really know their history, but I do know that they're breaking attendance records and stuff like that. They're building onto their stadium to make it larger, to attract an FBS invite. I'm definitely going after New Mexico State because that's a gimme, because that sets up a great rivalry between UTEP and New Mexico State. New Mexico State's not good. They only got one win. They're not very good, but it's survival mode. So just invite anybody and everyone you can. So New Mexico State, Southeastern Louisiana, Sam Houston. I don't think Stephen F. Austin would come up, but they wouldn't be a bad pickup. McNeese State down in Lake Charles, again, not a super great FCS school, but if the name of the game is to be regional and the name of the game is to bring anyone who is willing to bump up to FBS or just join us from independent FBS, take them. And there are plenty of names out there, plenty of names to pluck up. And while some of those FCS schools might look at us and say, well, Conference USA, and look at it and say, well, maybe we'll just stay in FCS where we're still perennial powerhouses and wait for something better to come down the road later, or do we jump now at the opportunity to make a little bit more money? So if that's what I would do. Those are the teams that I'm inviting. I would even go after Central Arkansas, because that kind of builds a base up there, because I think Arkansas State's in some bout. Actually, I'm pretty sure they are. They are. So that's what I would do. I don't want to dissolve the conference, because that creates more problems. Because then you're really and truly screwed. It's over. Like, Tech has nowhere to go but independent or down to FCS. I mean, there's nowhere else to go, because the Sun Belt's not going to invite us. AAC said, "Lol, nope." And I mean, my God, we're not going to get an invite from a P5 unless that's what this has all been about. Unless we've just built up so much good karma that this is what it's all been about. That as soon as Mizzou sucks so bad that they're like, nah, we don't need Mizzou. Get them out of the SEC. And then they're like, oh, La Tech. Yeah, let's bring them in. There's an easy victory for everyone on the schedule.
We don't need Mizzou. Let's go get the blue.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that on my Twitter right now. Yeah,
do it. Tweet it right now.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna do that right this second.
Okay, yeah, seriously, do it. At the SEC.
And I live in the state of Missouri. I'm not gonna get a lot of flack for this, because nobody cares about college football up here. Nobody. It's either the Kansas City Chiefs or KU basketball. That's it. They don't care about college football. And who could blame them? I mean, my God, KU sucks and Mizzou's not much better. But if I'm commissioned, that's
lose Mizzou, go get the blue.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a matter for me of survival. I don't want to see CUSA fail, because if they fail, Tech's got nowhere to go. I mean, you go FBS, but FBS independent, but they've done that before. They did that from the year, I think it was the last year Tech was independent was 2004, when they jumped up to the WAC and they won the WAC. But the years of being independent aren't good. You don't have any TV deals, and we wouldn't be able to watch any of our games. You don't get any money from that, and it's going to turn off recruits. So I'm right back at that whole long-term problem. But that's what I would do. I have no shame, and I've been on Twitter I was on Twitter all morning, quote tweeting these schools like, "Oh, Sam Houston, this is awesome," and because I've put my pride aside. There was a time where I was rather arrogant, along with a lot of other fans, like, oh, we're not going to go to the Sun Belt, which is collectively known in Louisiana Tech circles as the Sun Belch, because we all thought it was crap. Which and now we're like begging to get into it, which is making ULL fans lose their minds because we live rent free in their heads, because they have a podcast down there which is a disgrace. And they tweeted about La Tech, maybe not yesterday, but the day before, 14 times. 14 times. And it's just rent free for those guys. They are obsessed with hating on us. And on GTPDD, we talk about them on one article, I know for sure, because they are using the name UL to describe themselves, which is absolute bogus, because UL is University of Louisville, but they're so desperate to make it seem like they're the flagship when there's only one flagship in the state of Louisiana, and it's LSU. It's not ULL, and there's no this nonsense of, oh, LSU is its own university system, so it's its flagship, and then ULL is in the University of Louisiana system, so that's not how it works. And there's a bylaw in the UL system that says they legally cannot call themselves U of L or UL, but they still do it anyway because they're and they argue, well, the Texas Longhorns, who I'm sure you hate and despise, I'm not
a fan of them.
Well, yeah, why would it be? Because they take all the talent around DFW.
Sure.
No, you does too. But if UT, they go by UT. They don't go by UT Austin.
Right.
They go by UT.
Right.
So ULL's argument is, well, if the University of Texas does that, the University of Arkansas does that, the University of Missouri does that, the University of almost every state does that. Well, the reason why is because all those schools are the flagship program. So that's about the only beef I really have with them. I don't have any problem with ULL fans.
I can't get Louisiana Lafayette out of my head. Anytime I see the raging, that's just it's just because it's been like that for years.
Oh yeah, it has.
I'm waiting for this tweet, by the way, from you. I'm checking my feed.
I get so wrapped up in, like, because I realize there's been what word am I looking for here to describe this? Because
sound it out.
I'm so Smeckledorfed right now with everything going on right now. So I realized there hasn't been any SpongeBob reference. There hasn't been any real semblance of organization to this rant. It's basically just an angry La Tech fan ranting. But what I have wanted to get so much of this out for so long, because we don't really discuss this on our podcast, because we're really just trying to focus on what we can control and what we know is coming up. Like, we know we have a football game next week. We don't know what's going to happen.
If the ship is sinking, Matt, we want to know. Like,
yeah.
What's going on? Are we treading water here? Like, what the hell is happening?
Yeah, what the hell is happening is right now. I don't know what we're treading. It feels like shark-infested waters. We all knew that we probably weren't going to get the bump with the AAC. We all held out hope, and when we saw that you guys were bumped up, I was like, okay, come on. Like, like the joke was, the joke in our group was, it was about market, not merit. And UAB going and all those other schools make sense, but like UNT, like, they got one win, and I don't know when you guys' last winning season
was. That win was a powerful win, apparently.
So, I guess so. And there's no better market than DFW. That's got to be the best market. It's got to be the biggest market in AAC. What bigger market do they have? It's I don't think they do have a bigger market. I don't know who's the perennial best team in AAC right now, by the way. Is Coastal Carolina in there, or are they Sun Belt?
No, that's Sun Belt. Cincinnati.
So.
Cincinnati.
Okay.
They're the real deal.
Okay, and see, that's where I would be super excited if let's kind of switch.
But they're leaving. They're going to the Big 12.
Okay, so but still, and that's good for them. But think about it. If I'm a UNT fan, I'm thinking that could be us one day. It might not seem like that could be a remote possibility right now with your one win, but if the name of the game is to go up, UNT's doing it. You guys are going up. It's good. I guarantee you that moving up to the AAC is going to bring better recruits to UNT. I guarantee.
Oh, for sure.
I guarantee. And if in 10 years, maybe even less, but probably never, UNT bumps up to like the Big 12 or something like that, you can look back to this and be like, wow, that was the pivotal moment where we went from relative obscurity in CUSA up to where we are today. Where were you guys before? Were you guys always in CUSA?
No, we were in the Sun Belt.
Ah,
Yeah. And
ah,
we got promoted up to Conference USA, and then everything kind of flipped on us. So, yeah, but
interesting. I did not
now,
know that.
yeah, but now we're moving up once again to the AAC, and like you said, maybe 10 years down the road, it will all have started right here between you and I, talking it into an
Yeah,
existence.
talking it into existence that UNT becomes a perennial powerhouse and then goes to P5 in the Big 12 and wins 45 national titles in a row. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh,
That sounds likely.
yeah,
Um,
sounds real likely. You guys need to drop the Mean Green name though. That's one of the worst. Like you guys should have just stuck with the Eagle or like be the UNT Stone Cold Steve Austin's. That'd be pretty cool. He played fullback there, didn't he?
he play either
Or
fullback or
defensive
D
lineman.
line.
Yeah, D
Yeah, maybe
line.
D lineman. Yeah.
That's like that's like the coolest alumnus thing ever. Stone Cold Steve Austin. I was thinking, what do we have? We have Phil Robertson. We have Terry Bradshaw. That's cool, I guess. And what else? The guy who created The Sims. I don't care about The Sims.
Yeah, that's something. The Sims,
So
but
UNT's like headed up. All these other schools are headed up, and we're left behind in the dust. And while my best case scenario is us getting these lower tiered schools to come up, my realistic feeling is that's not going to happen because I don't think CUSA has a leg to stand on. I think that once ODU, Southern Miss, and Marshall officially leave, that's going to put us in a position where it's going to come down to the rest of the teams voting to dissolve the conference. So that's probably a more realistic take. And if it gets really bad and the MAC picks up WKU and MTSU, that's really it. Because then
all
it's
right.
just FIU, UTEP, and La Tech.
Yep.
And we probably wouldn't even have a shot to win the Q title then either.
All right. Before we hop off,
Yeah.
let me put you. Let's say you can push a message to all the Louisiana Tech fans,
Oh,
for
okay.
better or for worse. What would you say right now in the state of the program? What would be your message to them? Would it be kiss your butt
What,
goodbye, or we're gonna be okay?
would
Like
it be?
just
What is my message?
yes, let's hear it.
All I can do is right now is go out there and be their leader. So I will say it's over. We
There
are
it goes.
we are screwed. No, I don't know. That's the problem, and that's really what's bothering me the worst. I know that at the end of the day, La Tech's not going to lose their football team or lose their athletics. It's probably going to be really hard on us, depending on what happens. So I'm never going to quit supporting my school. We could lose 50. We could lose every game in every sport for the next 10 years, and I would still support my school.
We both might be tested there, so let's be
Maybe,
careful.
maybe, but I'll never. My support for my school is never going to waver. But a lot of people who write the checks, because let me tell you, my awesome salary, I'm not cutting the checks. They might be persuaded to leave. So my message to them is, don't throw in the towel on your alma mater. If you want to look at it in dollars and cents, that's a pretty superficial way of doing this. I realize it's a business or whatever, but don't lose hope. I do believe that even if it's 3 years or 5 years down the road, we will come out okay. We're not going to come out as well as the schools that left for other conferences, most likely, but we're going to survive. And if that means staying in CUSA with some FCS schools, so be it. I would rather have a football team, a basketball team, a baseball team, a softball team, a women's soccer team, even a bowling team. You name it. I'd rather have all that still go and us poor student athletes than have nothing at all. And I don't know if a lot of people feel that way, but I'm asking them to please keep supporting the school because if we don't support the school, no one's going to support it. And then that's when things really go down the tubes.
Matt, you're a man amongst the people. A man of the people.
I'm what is that one line in Harry Potter, Luna Lovegood says? Terrifically average, which is more than I can say about the football team I support, who is terrifically terrible right now. But I just don't want to give up hope. And so that's my message to my fellow alumni and anybody else who supports a team in CUSA is just don't give up hope.
Never give up hope.
Yeah.
Never. Ever, ever.
Indeed.
Well, all right, Matt. Thanks again for hopping on. And guys, if you've listened all the way to the end, make sure to go check Matt out as well as everybody else at their podcast at Go Tech Please Don't Die. They do a tremendous job. And Matt has kept it clean on here, but I
have kept it clean, mostly because I don't know the audience. So I don't want to offend anybody. But if you want to hear a much more, I definitely was expounding and rambling on quite a bit because I've had this pent up for so long. And if I do it on the GTPDD podcast, they're like, okay, cut his mic off. They pull like a Bill O'Reilly, cut his mic off. So I didn't have a platform to do that. And so I'm glad I was able to kind of come on here and feed the trolls who will hear this. And I'll become like a meme, like the angry La Tech fan, or to shed a light onto what has been a very disconcerting situation for the rest of us. And I'm going to steal it back here again and keep going and just say, G5, this is not right. It's not right. No matter where you are in the country, even if your team is P5, what's happening in G5 right now isn't right. It's not right what's happening to Tech. It's not right what's happening to UTEP, FIU, WKU, MTSU. It's not right to any of us. It sucks.
There are programs dying. That is true. And
that's the worst part because you know what? If at the end of the day, all La Tech athletics went down the tubes, I would be heartbroken. I'd be devastated.
You would come be a Mean Green fan. We would take you in and bring you in our. We wouldn't give you an option. We would ransack you. We'd kidnap you for your own. Good.
I definitely would appear a lot more on the media platforms for you, which I may just do that anyway. But even if they lost everything, and I would be absolutely heartbroken, I'd be far more heartbroken for the student athletes. That's really who I feel for the worst. Because I remember when UAB lost their program, there was that video that leaked out of the players, like being so emotional with the university president and everybody else, and they were so upset. Like, what are we supposed to do? Where are we supposed to go? I mean, fast forward 2 CUSA titles later and a bump up to AAC and a brand new football stadium. It worked out really well for them, but it would absolutely break my heart if all those student athletes lost everything. Because they're the ones that are ultimately going to pay the price for all this bullshit. There's the curse word. For all this nonsense. Those are the people that are going to get hurt worst. Forget the fans. I mean, yeah, it'll break my heart, but that's who I feel for the worst here. And so it's not right what's happening. I don't want to peg it all on Judy because that's just, you know what? I'm pegging it all on Judy. It's her fault. It's her fault for not seeing that this was coming, and it's her fault for not doing anything to protect the teams that were most susceptible from not getting bumped. I mean, I guess there's only so much you can do, but if CUSA dies, then that's totally on the leadership. That's totally on them because there's not much that the teams left behind can do. So it's her job, it's the Board of Trustees' job to bring these schools up. And if they can't get that done, then they sealed our fate.
Yep. And obviously it's who knows, but I'll chime in a little bit with you there with the whole Judy thing. And I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter that there seems to be a lot of reacting instead of proacting, being proactive. But
if that's what you want to say,
they
released a statement. CUSA released a statement on Friday, which is basically a damage control tweet. Which let's translate it real quick. We don't know what the hell we're doing. We're all screwed. Lullaby. So there's a summary. But Judy was talking about how they're in talks with FCS schools and they're in talks with FBS schools, which I really think it's FBS school, New Mexico State, and everything else is FCS. And I'm all for it. I don't know if it's going to happen. And I don't want to come back on here to discuss why Louisiana Tech is playing in FCS and talking about the disaster that was the ultimate demise of CUSA, because there's still a little chance here, but as each passing day goes by, that window is getting smaller and smaller.
It's gonna be okay.
Well,
But
I mean,
thank God, I don't know.
I'm
Probably.
saying don't lose hope, and I won't until the very end. I think I said the other day that it was just like we're all on this sinking ship called the SS. For the love of God, help us! And even when you guys go up to AAC, you're probably going to struggle for a while.
Well, we've been struggling here, so
Yeah. Especially when's Latrell's contract over?
We have he's under contract for next season and the following season.
Oh, God. Not as bad as Skip, who's under contract until my kids are in kindergarten. I don't even have kids. So that, not as bad, but yeah, you still have something to look forward to. And I'm hoping that the next time I'm on here, the next time I'm invited, is when we keep CUSA alive and schedule some home and aways with UNT, because
that'll be awesome.
We definitely don't want to lose any ties with playing in DFW, because La Tech, believe it or not, has a pretty good history of plucking up recruits out of DFW.
Yep, y'all got some that we wanted for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And now you guys are going to AAC, and those guys are going to be like, CUSA, play Tarleton State or UNT, and play the likes of whoever the hell else is in AAC. I mean, that's like the driving force here that keeps me up at night. But if CUSA stays alive, I hope that we continue to play UNT, because that's a great rivalry, mostly because it's gone our way for years. But have you?
That's true.
We never won CUSA, and we're probably never going to. Did UNT ever win it?
No, we went to the conference game, the championship game in what year was that? 2017, I believe.
Was that against Marshall?
Who did we play? No, I think we played.
Was it Middle Tennessee?
No, it might have been FAU. I'm trying to.
I may have been Lane Kiffin's year there.
Yeah,
that may have been, because we lost to WKU and Marshall. Had a chance to beat Marshall. Cody Sokol threw a pick with middle linebacker. Still see that in my nightmares. Thanks, Cody Sokol.
Yeah, it was FAU. I'm almost certain now, because the reason I was getting that, because I think the following year or the year after that we beat FAU, but it wasn't for the title game, obviously. I want to say we beat FAU when they had Lane Kiffin.
You might have. I know Tech did.
Yeah.
I remember it well because I screenshot him on the sidelines crying. So I have a tendency to go over time. That's why Nathan has such a hard time editing the GTPDD podcast.
There's no editing here. It's one shot. It's got to work.
Brilliant. Yeah. I like that style. Like, Nathan's got to edit it down, because I will go on for like 2 hours.
There's no editing, primarily because I don't know how. So
no, I like that style. They could just fast forward through it. Yeah. It's been a tough year. It looks like it's going to be a tough couple of years, regardless of what happens. And yeah, my message is don't give up hope. Stay steadfast, and let's see what happens.
Hallelujah. All right, Matt. Well, thanks for jumping on, and look forward to talking to you soon.
For sure, man. You too.